There's a market most people have never heard of that decides what your mortgage costs. It decides whether your 401k goes up or down. It decides whether houses are affordable or out of reach. It decides whether the country booms or crashes. It's not the stock market. It's not crypto. It's not gold. It's the bond market. And it's bigger than all three of those combined. In the next 10 minutes, you're going to understand it better than your financial advisor. 10 minutes. Let's go. Meet Tom. Tom is 35. He's got a kid in kindergarten, a job he mostly likes, and a house he can almost afford. Tom was supposed to close on that house in 2021. His mortgage rate was going to be 3%. He could already picture the monthly payment. Comfortable, room to breathe. Then life happened. Closing got delayed. Paperwork bounced back twice. By the time Tom finally signed in 2023, the same house at the same price came with a 7% mortgage rate. Tom blamed the bank. Then he blamed the Fed. Then he blamed the president and his realtor for good measure. Tom blamed the wrong people. What jacked his mortgage from 3 to 7 wasn't a banker. It wasn't a politician. It was a market Tom didn't even know existed. By the end, you'll understand exactly what happened to Tom and how to never get blindsided by it again. Before we get to trillions and the Federal Reserve, let's start small. Your friend Dave shows up at your door one Saturday morning. Dave's been talking about an idea for months, a food truck, birria tacos. He's got the recipes, the spot picked out, the whole truck wrapped in his head. The only thing he's missing is $10,000. So Dave sits down at your kitchen table. Lend me the $10,000. I'll pay you back in 5 years. And every year, I'll throw in another $500 for the trouble, 5% on top. You think about it. You like Dave. You do it. Congratulations. You just bought a bond. A bond is a loan with a piece of paper that proves the deal. The lender hands over the money up front. The borrower pays it back later, with a little extra for the privilege of using your cash. That extra is called interest. The paper is called the bond. The entire multi-trillion-dollar global financial system is built on this transaction, repeated billions of times a day. Now picture the same deal, but the borrower isn't Dave. It's the United States government. Same setup. Uncle Sam needs cash. He promises to pay it back, with interest. You're the lender. He's the borrower. The only difference? Dave wanted 10 grand. The US Treasury borrows around $26 billion every week. That's not a crisis number. That's just Tuesday at the Treasury. So why does the government need that much? They have taxes, don't they? They do. But every year the government spends way more than it collects. That gap is called the deficit. In a normal year, it's between $1 and $2 trillion. Just for 1 year, just the gap. The gap has to be filled. So the government issues bonds. Investors buy them. The Treasury takes the cash. Next year, the gap opens again. The cycle repeats. Stack up every gap from every year going back 2 centuries, and you get the national debt. That number stops feeling real. So let me make it real. The interest alone, just the interest on what we already owe, costs the country roughly $3 billion a day. More than the entire federal budget for education. More than transportation, science, and housing combined. $3 billion, just to keep the lights on. So who lends Uncle Sam $36 trillion? Big banks. Pension funds. The same ones paying your dad's retirement check. Insurance companies. Foreign governments. China, Japan, the UK. Hedge funds. And if you've got a 401k, an IRA, or even a target date retirement fund, probably you. Somewhere inside that retirement account, almost certainly, there's a fund that owns US Treasury bonds. You're already in this market. You're already a lender to the federal government. You just didn't realize you signed up. That's the part that should bother you. Most people are participants in a system they've never been taught how to read. I'm going to give you 4 words, just 4, and if you actually learn what they mean, you'll understand bonds better than most adults walking around with money in this system. Principal, the size of the loan. When Dave asked for 10 grand, 10,000 was the principal. When the Treasury sells a bond for $1,000, 1,000 is the principal, just the loan amount. Coupon, the interest rate the bond promises to pay you. Dave's bond at 5% on 10 grand pays you $500 a year, every year, until he hands back the original 10,000. Now write this part down. The coupon never changes. Once it's on the bond, it's locked. Inflation could hit 20%. The Fed could cut rates to 0. The coupon stays exactly where it started, carved in stone. Maturity, when the loan ends and you get your principal back. Treasury bonds come in different flavors. 3 months, 2 years, 10 years, 30 years. Whatever it says on the paper, that's when you get paid back in full. Yield. This is the one. This is where almost everyone trips up. So pay attention, because if you understand this, you understand bonds better than most professionals. Here's what fools people. The coupon never changes, but the price of a bond changes every day, all day long. Say Dave sells you his bond for $1,000. 5% coupon. You get $50 a year, like he promised. A year later, your buddy Marcus comes over for dinner. He sees Dave's bond on your fridge and he wants it. He offers $1,100 for it. You take the deal. Here's where it gets interesting. Marcus still only gets $50 a year from Dave. The coupon is locked. It doesn't matter that Marcus paid more. Dave is still only paying $50 a year. So Marcus paid $1,100 to get a $50 payment. His actual return? Around 4.5%, not 5%, because he paid more for the same payment. That return, what an investor actually earns based on what they actually paid, that's the yield. So burn this in. Every news headline about bonds is talking about this one relationship. Bond prices and yields move in opposite directions. Always. Price up, yield down. Price down, yield up. No exceptions. It's the most reliable rule in finance. Now let's circle back to Tom. Tom with his 7% mortgage. Tom who blamed the bank. In early 2021, the yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury bond, the most watched bond in the world, was sitting around 1.5%. Mortgage lenders priced their mortgages right on top of it. Tom's neighbor locked in at 2.9. By the time Tom signed in 2023, that same 10-year yield had ripped up to 4.5%. The mortgage market followed it straight up. Tom signed at 7. Same bank, same credit score, same house. The only thing that changed in 2 years was one number Tom had never even heard of. And it's not just mortgages. Your car loan tracks bond yields. Your credit card APR tracks bond yields. Student loans, home equity loans, the interest your savings account pays you, even the price of the house you're trying to buy. Because higher yields scare off other buyers, and fewer buyers drag prices down. Every borrowing rate in the American economy connects back to one chart, one number, free, sitting in plain sight for anyone who knows to look. Almost nobody looks. Now here's where it hits your retirement account. Every big investor on the planet wakes up every morning and asks one question. Do I take the safe return from a government bond, or do I swing at the stock market and hope for more? When bond yields are low, like 2020 and 2021, when the 10-year paid barely over 1%, that question is easy. Stocks win. Money pours in. Prices rip higher. Everyone feels like a genius. But when bond yields hit 5, 6, 7%, suddenly the safe play looks pretty good. Why take the risk for a few extra points when you can lock in 5% guaranteed from Uncle Sam? Money flows out of stocks into bonds. Stock prices fall. Your 401k takes a hit. That tug of war has a name, the equity risk premium. It's the single best predictor of where the stock market is headed over the next decade. You won't hear about it on CNBC, but every serious money manager in the world stares at it every day. Now, so do you. So here's the rule, the only rule. If everything else falls out of your brain by tomorrow, remember this. Watch the 10-year, not the Dow, not the S&P, not Bitcoin, not whatever stock your cousin is shilling at Thanksgiving. The 10-year U.S. Treasury yield. It's free. It's on Google. Type 10-year Treasury yield, and it pops up with a chart. Check it once a week. One number. That's it. When the 10-year is climbing fast, brace yourself. Mortgage rates are about to rise. Stocks will get nervous. Loans will tighten. Houses will get harder to buy. When it's falling, the opposite. Money gets cheaper. Mortgages drop. Stocks usually rally. Houses get easier to buy. You don't need a Bloomberg terminal. You don't need a finance degree. You need 10 minutes of context, which you now have, and the discipline to glance at one chart once a week. That puts you ahead of 90% of adults walking around with money. The bar is genuinely that low. One last thing. This is for the people who stuck around because they actually want to understand how the machine works. Not all bonds are the same. Treasury bonds are the safest investment on the planet. The US government has never missed a payment in 250 years. The risk is essentially zero. Corporate bonds are different. Companies go bankrupt all the time, so they have to pay more interest than the government to convince anyone to lend to them. They have to compensate you for the risk. The extra they pay above the government rate is called the high yield spread. When the spread is narrow, when corporations are paying only a little more than the government, the market is calm. When it blows out, when corporations suddenly have to pay way more to borrow, that's the smoke detector going off. The 2008 crash? The spread blew out months before stocks tanked. The 2020 COVID crash? Same pattern. Spread first, crash second. It's how Wall Street sees trouble coming before everyone else does. Now you see it too. So that's the bond market. Stripped to the bone. 3 numbers run the whole show. The 10-year Treasury yield, the equity risk premium, the high yield spread. You don't need anything else to start understanding what's actually happening in this economy. You don't need a Bloomberg terminal. You don't need a CFA. You don't need to read 700 pages of macroeconomic theory. 3 numbers and 10 minutes of context, which you now have. And you're already further along than 90% of the country. If this saved you years of confusion, hit subscribe. I'm Dollar Bill George. See you in the next one.